Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Droozee, and today we have yet another Pokemon Yellow solo run. After a long break for some personal stuff and also the marathon that was my friend's birthday challenge, check it out if you haven't yet, we are back to the solo challenge grind. This time I'm using Nidoqueen, and I'm really excited for this one because Nidoqueen is a very strong Pokemon, coming in at the top quarter of all Gen 1 Pokemon in terms of base stats. These stats are pretty evenly distributed, so we're going to have some good flexibility in our attacking options. And these options, as you're going to see very soon, are really good. The Learn set gives good type coverage and has some really strong moves too. Since we're a ground type, we're going to be forcing our rival to evolve into Vaporeon, and this will give him a type advantage against us and make the run a little bit more difficult. Since the rival evolves based on rival 1 and 1A fights, we need to lose the lab fight to get him to do what we want. This means we have to throw the lab fight, and this is pretty easy since we can just spam Tail Whip. It is a little frustrating because if we could attack, we have Body Slam from the start. Anyone who has watched these Gen 1 runs will know that Body Slam is such a great move, especially early on in the early game. This should make the early game a bit easier for Nidoqueen and should help with the time significantly. As we wait for our rival to finally decide to attack and take us out, I think now's as good a time as any to take a look at the moveset for Nidoqueen. We start with 4 moves, but we'll probably be leaning heavily on Body Slam. We also get Double Kick, which will give us a little bit of early type coverage, and if the Learn set ended here, we would be in trouble. But as we bring in the TMs and HMs we can learn, we see a wide range of moves that are going to be very helpful. This list is huge and also gives great coverage options. We could use physical moves like Earthquake, Body Slam, and Rock Slide, or we could turn our Nidoqueen into a special attacker with moves like Thunder, Blizzard, and Fire Blast. This gives a lot of options to try out, and I really like this because it means that there are a lot of chances to try different strategies. I think this run is probably going to be one of the fastest so far, thanks to the high base stats we have in the early game and the great type coverage we get late game. With that said, I think the lack of any true specialty could be a problem at points too. I don't think we have anything else to add for now, and that means we can move forward to check out how the battle with Brock is going to go. We come into this battle against Brock at level 10 after spending a little bit of time training on any bugs we ran into in Viridian Forest, mainly because Body Slam was always a 2-shot and a crit was a 1-shot. With Nidoqueen's base speed determining its critical hit chance in Gen 1, we have about a 15% chance to crit, so about 1 in 6, which isn't bad, but also isn't enough to rely on for strategies. And speaking of strategies, ours here is pretty simple. Body Slam, Body Slam, Body Slam. At least against Geodude, because it is doing good damage, and when we get a paralysis, we essentially get a free turn because Brock will use a full heal to remove that paralysis. Geodude goes down and we level up, and it looks like we're still outsped, but we are actually in a speed tie. We see this on the second Body Slam where we move first as Brock goes for Bide, which is best case for us, as we can now lower Onix's defense. Well, we could if I didn't misclick, but we did get a paralysis, and his full heal apparently removed the Bide that was on. I've never seen this before, so if someone knows what's going on here, please let me know in the comments because it's probably a weird Gen 1 thing, and those are always interesting to learn more about. Anyway, Onix is at very low health, it is in red health, and thanks to a paralysis, Brock used a full heal which gave us an easy win, allowing us to level up to level 12 and learn Double Kick, which would have been really useful for this battle, but it's all good, and it wasn't really too challenging for Nidoqueen, and all in all, we're off to a really good start. On our way to Cerulean, we stop at the Poké Center, and of course we're going to grab the deal of a lifetime by buying a rare Magikarp. This thing is too valuable to risk in battle, even if we were allowed to use it, so it's going to go directly into our PC, so stay safe, Magikarp. Now that we can continue on our way to Cerulean, we're going to take on rival number 2 first. Misty has good AI, and being ground type means we're going to need to withstand at least a water gun, and I want to give the best chance to win. Plus, with Body Slam and Double Kick, we match up extremely well against our rival at this point. Even though we got an attack drop thanks to a Growl, we are still able to easily sweep our rival here. I honestly don't think we could lose this without really trying or having terrible sand attack luck from the Sandshrew. We're able to level up to level 19, a Double Kick finishes off the Rattata in 1 shot, and with Eevee out, we're able to finish things off with a critical hit Double Kick again. Like I said, an easy sweep against our rival. After battling the trainers north of town, we head to Misty's gym, and I'm not sure how this will go, but we're going to give it a try while we're still in town. We're up to level 24 entering this fight, so we are a bit higher than Misty's team. Our Body Slam doesn't quite get the one-shot on Staryu, but it uses an X-Defend, so we're able to take out her first Starfish. Starmie's out, and the only thing I can think is Body Slam. And we get a paralysis on it, which is fantastic. We got a speed drop with Bubble Beam after it did huge damage. We hang on in red health from a water gun, but it's enough to give us a first try victory over the water gym leader in Misty. And that was fantastic. I'm going to take that, and we're going to move on to our rival on SSN, rival number 3. When rival number 2 is easy, rival number 3 is usually even easier, and that definitely holds true for Nidoqueen here. This is an absolute rout, and it's never in doubt. Between Double Kick and Body Slam, we are set up to do very well here. I think our dominance will last until we get to rival 5 and he finally evolves as Eevee, but right now, he's just not a challenge. With the rival defeated, we get to now grab Cut and make our way to face Lieutenant Surge. Just like our rival before this, I don't see Surge giving us very much trouble. I know the solution to the trash can puzzle before this because I've already saved, and this is done so I don't add that extra variability in each run's time. So I'm not just super lucky here with guessing the right cans. Surge's best move in Thunderbolt isn't a factor here, so he can only hit us with Growl or reduced accuracy moves, so I'm feeling really good here. And after a couple Body Slams do huge damage, we're in great shape. An X speed from him is wasted as a Scratch takes down Lieutenant Surge, and this earns us our 3rd badge. That was easy, and now we can move on to the true mid-game. And that starts when we get to Celadon, where we can pick up a freshwater to give to the little girl in return for Ice Beam. And this is a great move and one of my favorites in Gen 1 solo playthroughs. I am immediately going to teach it to Nidoqueen in place of Tail Whip. And as I do that, you'll additionally see that I've taught Thunderbolt already, and that's going to give us some additional type coverage here. I think both of these will likely stay in our moves until the end of the game, with maybe Ice Beam getting replaced by Blizzard if we need a little bit of extra power at the end game. The only thing left to do is grab a beverage for the Saffron Guards, and today felt like a good day for Soda Pop. So with that out of the way, let's stop by the game corner and take on Giovanni to pick up the Sylph Scope. I think Erica could still be a problem, but I don't think Giovanni will be. Out of pure curiosity, I went for Double Kick to start with, but a single Ice Beam was enough to take out his Onix. Same thing with Rhyhorn, and that brings out his Persian. Now with Persian out, you know that Giovanni has to go for a guard spec, and he does, allowing us to get off a big hit with Double Kick, easily allowing us to knock him out after a weak payday. Just like I had hoped, this was never in doubt, and it was a nice stop before we can head back to Lavender Town and Pokemon Tower to face our rival again. And rival number 4 is usually pretty easy, and that once again holds true just like I predicted earlier in the video. We have strong type advantages over his entire team, starting with Thunderbolt over Fearow, and we don't have a true answer for Vulpix, not yet anyway, so I go for Double Kick and it takes 2 turns, but we only took 9 damage for Ember, so no worries here. Magnemite is next, and we crit with Body Slam, and it might have mattered, I don't know, but it was an easy one-shot anyway. Ice Beam for Sandshrew, followed by a Double Kick on Eevee, and that is rival number 4. This will probably be the last easy rival battle though, because once he gets some evolved team members, I doubt we're going to be able to one-shot as consistently. After clearing Pokemon Tower, we now have the Pokeflute, and we're able to move on in the story. But before we do that, let's stop by and see Erica at the Grass Gym. One of the first things you'll notice is that we're not even fully healed going into this, because I'm pretty confident that this is going to go well, starting with an Ice Beam that crit was a one-shot, which probably mattered. We get hit with a Razor Leaf, which is doing neutral damage. Ignore that it says it's not very effective, that's a Gen 1 bug. And after taking out Weepinbell, we don't quite take out Gloom, get paralyzed, but fortunately for us, we are able to avoid full paralysis and take out the Gloom. That was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but even with a loss, I think it would have been an easy rematch win. With Erica defeated, we're going to take a slight detour from the normal route down to Fuchsia City, and that detour is going to be to Silphco, specifically to the 10th floor, and that's going to be to pick up Earthquake in addition to the Carbos and Rare Candy here. Earthquake is a fantastic stab move for us, and we can replace Double Kick with it, and that gives us a pretty well-rounded moveset. With Earthquake learned, I can use the Carbos on Nidoqueen and dig out of Sylph to head to Fuchsia to try to battle Koga. His yellow version team is going to be harder than red or blue because they all know Psychic and are a much higher level, but we still have Earthquake to deal super effective damage, so maybe we have a chance. We come into this battle 7 levels lower than his weakest Venonat, and when we start with Earthquake and it doesn't one-shot, I know we're in trouble. And that doubles when we get put to sleep with Sleep Powder, and while our Nidoqueen takes a nap, Venonat proceeds to destroy us with Psychic after Psychic here. I knew this was a possibility, but we're going to need some more levels before we take on Koga. Maybe Rival 5 will go better? We're much closer in level to his team, starting with Sandslash, who goes down to a critical hit Ice Beam. That's a great start, and we'll see if it continues. We level up to 38, and then I misclick and go for a Thunderbolt on Magneton, taking a critical hit tackle that doesn't do too much before we take it out with Earthquake. Ninetales is out next, and it goes for Ember, and we get burned, so our attack is halved, and that is going to be a problem. As we eventually do take out the Ninetales, we head into Kadabra, we get outsped, and that is a critical hit one-shot. That is not great. Let's try this again and see what happens if I don't misclick or get burned, and things start out very badly as our Ice Beam turns out that crit did matter. Although we do end up taking out the Magneton with a single Earthquake, we've already taken way more damage than that tackle did last time. Ninetales is out next, and we don't get a burn this time, so it's a one-shot. Kadabra's out next, and we're going to get outsped, and Psybeam takes us out in a single shot. What you're seeing now is our third battle against rival number 5, and it was always intended as a scouting fight to see how we would fare against Vaporeon if we made it that far, but things started out fantastic when we got a freeze on Sandslash, essentially allowing us to get a no damage knockout. Magneton's out next, and like we've seen before, Earthquake takes it out with one hit, and Ninetales is out, but this time it goes for Tail Whip and fails, so we're at full health going into Kadabra. Kadabra will go for Confusion this time, and it does less than half damage, which is fantastic, allowing our Earthquake to one-shot to bring out Vaporeon. We're going for Earthquake, even though Thunderbolt would be a super effective move here. Because of how Vaporeon's stats are, and our stab, we're going to be doing more damage with Earthquake, and we got a lucky critical hit there, which allows us to take out the Vaporeon. And it is a win, and it's nice when a couple things bounce your way, but we're very underleveled here, and it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in future battles against our rival. We don't need any luck for the Giovanni battle though. Nidorino was a one-shot with Earthquake, and because Giovanni is obsessed with guard specs, Persian doesn't even get off too much damage to bring out Rhyhorn. A single Ice Beam takes out the Rhinoceros, and then we're on to our mirror match against Nidoqueen, and our Ice Beam does over half, a weak scratch doesn't do too much to us, and we take out the Nidoqueen, and that's the Giovanni battle. It was another easy battle against the crime boss, and now we can turn our attention to facing Koga again. Being closer in level will make a big difference here, but we still can't get one-shots with our Earthquake. This means we're still at risk for sleep, and even when we get short sleeps like we do here, we aren't really ready for this fight yet. Psychic and Psybeam are still doing huge damage to us, and we can't take too many. This is the best attempt that I got at level 41, and while we are eventually able to make it past the 3 Venonats, which was the first time that happened, Venomoth is another story. We're going to get outsped, and we're going to get taken to red health before our Earthquake even takes the Moth to about half health. Unless Koga goes for an X attack or gets a Gen 1 miss, we're going to lose here, and the Moth goes for Psychic, ending this attempt. Our other option right now is to face Sabrina, and while we don't match up well against her, I decide to try it anyway. The biggest problem here is Sabrina loves accuracy drops, and also basically any attack she lands will likely be a one-shot. She also has a speed advantage, and we see all 3 of these in the first attempt, and while we make it past Abra and Kadabra without damage, and only 1 accuracy drop, Alakazam nails us with a Psychic, and that's all she wrote. So we're kinda stuck right now. I took out the Fighting Dojo, giving us a little bit more stat experience and also getting a couple levels on our Nidoqueen. At level 42, we try Koga again, and even though things are a little bit better now, we still struggle with Koga. It would be possible with really good luck to win this, but it would most likely involve a freeze on the Venomoth after Koga uses an X attack, and that is way too unlikely to rely on for a consistent strategy. We need a few more levels still, so I'm going to use a few of the rare candies we've picked up along the way, and we're going to try this one again. After using those rare candies, we're now starting this fight at level 46, and the biggest change is that we can now one-shot the first Venonat with Earthquake. I thought we had the second one too, but it hangs on with a sliver of health. Koga decides to use an X attack though, so we're still through 2 Venonats without taking damage. Venonat number 3 takes good damage and a big Psychic hits us. We got a special drop, but that might help because our attack will now be up thanks to the badge boost glitch. Venomoth goes for an X attack and we are doing really good damage. And then Koga goes for a second X attack and we ended up sweeping his team pretty easily there for our 5th badge. I think we should have been able to survive most of his attacks here, so I don't think that decision to go for a second X attack was really that critical to our win, but who knows, and either way, a win is a win, and now Surf is available to us and we can leave the gym and head to the newly unlocked Cinnabar Island to take on Blaine. We come into this battle only a few levels lower than most of his team, and after a great start with Ninetales going for Tail Whip, we've effectively boosted our attack and we're in a good shape until Rapidash comes out and continually hits us with a Fire Spin and then drops our attack with Growl. We now outspeed the Rapidash to take it out, but we level up so our speed advantage is gone against Arcanine, who hits us with a big takedown before our Earthquake doesn't quite do enough. One more takedown's all it takes, and we're now done, and we're gonna have to try this one again. That wasn't great, but maybe if he makes a few different choices, we could be in a better place. Well, it turns out that those few different choices actually make it worse, and we end up doing no damage to his team on our second attempt. After 4 more failed attempts, all ending at Ninetales, we finally make it past the Firefox, thanks to it using Quick Attack for very little damage. Rapidash is out next, and we get hit with Stomp, and because our attack isn't lowered and we don't flinch, we get a one-shot and we're back to Arcanine, this time with full stats and really good health. Arcanine hits us with Takedown, but our Earthquake is critical hit, and that's a clutch one-shot. And while this may have been a little lucky, sometimes these things just bounce your way. It usually all ends up balancing out at the Elite Four anyway, because you can't really rely on luck there. We now have our 6th badge, and now we have our badge booster special, so maybe we'll get a better chance at Sabrina. Thanks to the extra levels, we've outsped Abra, and now we don't have to worry about accuracy. A Gen 1 Recover with full health, classic, by Kadabra means we've moved on. A Psywave, even a big Psywave, doesn't end up doing too much, and that's another critical hit with Earthquake to take out a gym leader's ace. That is a fantastic win. I don't know if that one mattered, it probably did, but Alakazam does have low defense, so maybe it didn't matter. With Sabrina defeated, we're going to throw away the TM for Psywave because I hate this move even more than ever after that last challenge run. I hope to never have to use that move again after that nightmare, but with our 7th badge, we can now head back to Viridian City to take on Giovanni for the 3rd and final time to complete our Pokemon League journey. Well, it doesn't start out well when we get one shot with a Fissure by Dugtrio. On our next attempt, we go for Ice Beam, and it's a critical hit one-shot to start things off after he wasted his turn with the Guard Spec. Persian's out next, and it does get a critical hit with Fury Swipes, but it doesn't end up doing too much, and our second Earthquake takes the cat down. Nidoqueen is out, and even though we're a lower level, we outspeed. Unfortunately, we don't take it out in one shot, and we only take it to red health, so we've taken huge damage. Nidoking is out, and Ice Beam does over half, and a Guard Spec allows us to easily take out the Nidoking on the next turn. We level up, and Rhydon's out next, and Ice Beam doesn't quite do enough to knock out the Rhydon, and a single Earthquake takes us down. I thought that Ice Beam was gonna be good, but it wasn't quite enough. The lack of true special strength or stab is really showing there. After using some more rare candies, we're back, now starting at level 54, and those extra levels are so nice to have here. We still weren't outspeeding Dugtrio, but we're able to make it to the Nidoqueen without taking too much damage. The Nidoqueen does do a ton of damage with an Earthquake though. The Nidoking is out next, and we get a one-shot with our Earthquake here, so we must have been in a pretty good damage range there. Ice Beam on Rhydon gets a crit, and that's enough for our win, and that means that Giovanni is out of the way. We have now beaten all 8 gym leaders, and we can head for the Indigo Plateau and the Elite Four. That is another crit for a knockout to get a gym badge though. That is 3 straight gym leaders losing to our Nidoqueen thanks to a critical hit. Before we get to the Elite Four, we have one last battle with our rival. Going off the last encounter in Silph, I'm not too confident going into this one, but we are at a much higher level compared to his team than before. Ice Beam one-shot Sandslash, and then another one on Execute. At this point, things are looking really good, and 2 more one-hit knockouts using Earthquake on Magneton and his Ninetales respectively, and this is looking like it might be a straight sweep. This is not at all how I thought this was going to go, and that streak of knockouts continues with another Earthquake to take out Kadabra and bring out Vaporeon. I've forgotten my lesson from before and I'm using Thunderbolt. I guess we're hoping for a paralysis, but we don't get it and we really don't need it. We level up to 56 after that win and we just had a flawless victory against Rival 6. We didn't take a single hit. This was totally unexpected, but it is a great way to enter the Elite Four with a lot of confidence. I still think Lorelei is probably going to be our biggest hurdle, but maybe the champion won't be as tough as we thought before. Now that we're at the league, let's check out how Nidoqueen does when it first shows up. Although we are weak to Lorelei's ice types, we have a good counter thanks to Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt's going to be good for most of her team, including her Dugong, which uses rest like it's famous for. Cloyster's out next, and we see a problem when we don't quite one-shot it, but thanks to a retroactive Super Potion, we get out of the Cloyster battle without any damage as well. Slowbro's out next, and Thunderbolt does really good damage, and Psychic does just under half to us before we take out Slowbro. With Jinx out next, we go for Earthquake because it has lower defense than Special, and we get the one-shot. Things aren't looking great, so I test out Earthquake, which looks like it's doing about half before Hydro Pump hits us and washes away our chances of moving on. Either Hydro Pump or Blizzard are going to be chosen here, so it looks like our strategy might be hoping for a 20% or a 10% chance to miss. I'm not really sure I like that, but that's kind of where we are for right now. After a few more attempts, I never made it past Slowbro and often lost to Cloyster, so after training a little bit more, we're facing off against Lorelei again, this time coming in at level 60. Dugong went down to a critical Thunderbolt, and Cloyster hung on. This is a damage range, and it hung on with a sliver of health, so we took a big damage before we were able to take it out to bring on Slowbro. Thunderbolt on Slowbro does good damage, and we take out the Slowbro in 2 turns. Jinx is out next, and we know that Earthquake could do it, but I go for Body Slam and we get a crit, and that does it as well. Lapras is next, and a Thunderbolt does over half, Blizzard misses, and that means we're moving on, and we've defeated Lorelei for the first time, and now we're going to be going into the Bruno battle at level 61. Relying on a little bit of luck to beat Lorelei doesn't have me feeling particularly confident that this is consistent, but the good thing is that she's the first Elite Four member, so if the others are consistent, we should be able to make it past her eventually. I really don't like having to rely on luck for that miss at the end, but we're not going to talk too much about Lorelei for now because we have to deal with by far the easiest member of the Elite Four in Bruno. Bruno's team just doesn't match up in the late game, and after Onix goes down to a critical hit, we're now able to almost take out Hitmonchan. It does survive, which is a little bit surprising given its low special. Hitmonlee's out next, and I go for Ice Beam, and it also barely survives. I thought we would be sweeping here, but we must be just missing it. Maybe a couple more levels and we'll be doing okay. An Earthquake takes out Onix number 2, and that brings out Machamp, who looks like is going to be a 3-hit with an Ice Beam here. We get a freeze though, so we can easily take down Machamp and defeat Bruno. The only thing worth noting in that Bruno battle that was surprising is that I thought I would sweep through his early team except for his Machamp. Another level or two and we likely will do that, but for now this isn't looking too great. At least we're heading in to face Agatha's Poison team next, and the biggest thing I'm worried about here is the speed of her Ghost possibly leading to Hypnosis, and High Special maybe damaging us, but we have Earthquake, and you can see right away that's a one-shot on Gengar number 1. Golbat is out next, and yet again we see a Pokemon hang on with a sliver of health, and this is getting so frustrating at this point. We are getting so close to knockouts, but coming up just short. We're confused, and we hit ourselves in confusion quite a bit, not once, not twice, but 3 times, before we finally shake off confusion and eventually take out the Golbat. Haunter's out next, and we outspeed, and that's a one-shot with Earthquake. That's pretty nice. Arbok comes out, we also outspeed, and another one-shot with Earthquake. That brings us to Gengar number 2, who outspeeds and hits us with a critical Psychic, and that ends this run. I think it's going to be important to get a little higher level to make these battles more consistent, and with that in mind, we're back again, this time at level 64. Thunderbolt still isn't a one-shot on Dugong unless we crit, but it's not a big deal as it usually uses Rest, and that allows us to move on to Cloyster, who is now a consistent one-shot with Thunderbolt. Now on to Slowbro, and we bring it to red health with a Thunderbolt, triggering a retroactive Super Potion and giving us a chance to knock it out in the next turn. Jinx is out next and goes down to 1 critical hit Body Slam, which is going to bring us back to Lapras. Thunderbolt does over half, and then we get hit by Blizzard for ridiculous damage, but we still hold on and are able to get the knockout. This fight actually feels really consistent now. I could still see some trouble if we took some damage from either Dugong not using Rest and attacking on the first turn, or Slowbro not cooperating, but even with a Slowbro attack, we're only looking at a 50% chance at an offensive move from Slowbro, so even that feels pretty good. Those extra few levels really have made a huge difference in Nidoqueen's performance, much more than I actually expected. With Lorelei defeated, we're back to Bruno, and I think the most exciting thing about this battle is that we start out with a Gen 1 miss. Honestly, that's the most exciting part of the battle, since after that 1 in 256 chance of happening, we go on to sweep the worst member of the Elite Four by one-shotting each of his first 4 Pokemon. Seriously, how is this guy in the Elite Four with this team? His Machamp does hang around for a while, but ultimately it never has a chance to win, and we're going to move on without much of a challenge to get a rematch against Agatha. After a quick heal, we're going to be on our way to see if these extra levels we've picked up are going to make a difference. I'm hoping the trend we've seen so far continues. Honestly, I'm just hoping that we have a little bit more speed and maybe we can outspeed one of our Gengars. And we're going to see right away as Gengar number 1 comes out that we do outspeed, and that is amazing. We end up also getting a critical hit with our Earthquake, and that takes it down in one shot. Golbat is next, and an Ice Beam is now a one-shot consistently, and that is fantastic. Earthquake takes out the Haunter, and that brings out the Arbok. Arbok goes down to a single Earthquake as well, and this is fantastic. Gengar number 2 is out, and we outspeed again. Perfect, and we just went from struggling tremendously against Agatha. With a couple more levels, we outspeed and we sweep her team without taking any damage. This battle went from downright frustrating to a flawless victory, all thanks to only being 3 levels higher. We've now made it to Lance, and I don't see this being too tough because we do have an answer to every single member on his team, but that doesn't always mean it will work. Lance leads with Gyarados, and one quick 4-time super effective Thunderbolt later, he might as well have had a Magikarp because that was an easy one-shot. We now switch to Ice Beam, and Dragonair number 1 goes down, which means Dragonair number 2 will also go down to that same Ice Beam. Aerodactyl's out next, and it hits with a Swift. We do get outsped, and it barely hangs on, triggering a Hyper Potion. We go for Body Slam, going for Paralysis. We don't get it. A critical Wing Attack does good damage, but we're easily able to take out Aerodactyl to bring out Dragonite, who goes down to a single 4-time super effective Ice Beam, and that's the Lance battle. Nothing too crazy, nothing too hard. That's an easy win, and now we get to face the champion. In our last battle, we swept him, so I'm feeling pretty confident going into this one. Let's heal up, make your way into the champion's room, cue the champion's theme music, and see if Nidoqueen can end this run and make its way onto the tier list. Let's see if we can get it done right here. We are going to be starting against Sandslash, and right away, we're going to be going for Ice Beam, and it gets the job done with a one hit without being a crit, and that is a fantastic way to start as we level to 67. Alakazam's next, and oh no, we get outsped. Psybeam goes for about half before we can take Alakazam down with an Earthquake. This is very unsettling to say the least, and if we don't get a win here, we could be in trouble because a Psychic or a crit probably would have been game over. Execute's out next, and thanks to good AI, it will always try Leech Seed. We don't get a freeze with our Ice Beam, so we end up getting seeded before we can take the tree down. Ninetales is out next, we outspeed, one Earthquake is enough to take it down. That's pretty easy, and now we're on to Magneton, and another Earthquake does big damage and takes out the Magneton as well, so we're one Pokemon away, only needing to beat Vaporeon. I go for Thunderbolt, and it crits, and we get a Paralysis. This is awesome, this is best case scenario, until we get hit by Hydro Pump, and that takes us down and ends our run. We had a 25% chance for full Paralysis and a 20% chance for a miss there, and neither went our way. So you know what that means, we're back to the beginning again. And while it's annoying that we have to face all Elite Four members again, I'm feeling confident we'll make it back to the champion pretty quickly. Last time we swept through the league pretty easily, and the strategies from before were really consistent all the way up to the champion. So if anything, we might need to make some slight adjustments before that fight. I've sped up this footage a bit to save some time, but while it rolls through without many surprises, I want to ask why the Elite Four aren't using the best healing items. I mean, Lorelei and Agatha use Super Potions, at least Lance has Hyper Potions, which I guess is acceptable, but the earlier members really need to be using better items. Maybe the Elite Four was facing some recent budget cuts or something? I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking way too far into this late 1990s children's game. And with that tangent out of the way, we've now swept through the Elite Four and are once again preparing to take on the champion. I don't really have too many levers to pull to change the outcome here, so we're going to plan on using most of our moves and our moveset that we already have in place. So we're just going to heal up, we're going to use our PP restoring items, and that means we're going to queue up the Champions theme music once again and try to get our revenge and make it into the Hall of Fame. We already know that Ice Beam is a one-shot on the Sandslash, and it's no different in this battle. We don't know how we're going to do against the Alakazam though, and we really need it to go for either Reflect or even Kinesis, and that's what we get here, and Kinesis even fails to make things even better for us. A critical hit Earthquake takes down the Alakazam and brings out Exeggutor. We don't get the freeze again on the tree, so we are still seated, but we're able to take the Exeggutor down on the next turn. Ninetales is out, and another Earthquake takes it out just like last time, and we're on to Magneton. Magneton's out, and another Earthquake takes it down as well. No surprise there, and we've made it back to Vaporeon very quickly. I go for Thunderbolt, and even though I have full health, I don't know if we'll survive a Hydro Pump. Luckily, it misses though, and our next Thunderbolt gets the Paralysis. This is great, and then an Aurora Beam hits for pretty good damage, but at this point it's too little too late, and one more Thunderbolt is able to take down Vaporeon, and we have done it. We have beat the champion, and we have earned our way into the Hall of Fame. I really enjoyed that run. This was a really good way to get back into the solo challenges after that marathon of the challenge video from my friend. The whole run was pretty smooth. Outside of being very underleveled in the mid-game, it was pretty painless. I think it's fair to say that Nidoqueen lived up to its strong reputation. So how well did Nidoqueen end up doing? Well, it finished the run at level 67, not great but not bad, and we finished the game in 4 hours and 5 minutes, which is one of the fastest to date. While sometimes these Pokemon are easy to place, this is definitely going to be a more difficult one. It clearly isn't as good as Tauros, but it is basically tied with Sandslash and Persian. While it's definitely debatable, I'm going to go ahead and put Nidoqueen at the number 4 spot behind both of them. It took a bit more levels than the other two, and these levels really did matter, as we saw with the Elite Four. I'm still not sure if I fully agree with my ranking though, so let me know what you think in the comments if you think maybe Nidoqueen should have been higher on this list. We now only have one thing left to do in this video, and that is figuring out who the next contender is going to be. So to do that, you know we have to bring out the wheel, and we'll give it a spin. It looks like our next challenge is going to be done with Articuno, our first legendary on the channel. I think this will be a really fun one, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if it can knock Tauros off the top of the list. I know that this has been some time in the making, but between some personal things going on and working on the other challenge video, I wasn't in a great place to put this video together. Things are looking much better now though, and I'm really excited to be able to get back into making these for all of you again. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when the newest videos get released, which I promise will be much sooner than the last time between this and the Horsey run. If you have any ideas how to make these runs more entertaining, let me know in the comments below as well, and until next time, I'm Droozee, and I hope to see you again soon.